NFL regular season has finally come to an end. We have our number one seeds. We have every single seed that there is now. And now it is time for the wild card matchups and the playoffs. Uh, I don't know what it is, but I get so stoked now that the NFL playoffs are in full effect. My team's in it, Ed's team's in it. It's going to be fun, and there's going to be a whole lot to talk about. We're going to preview every single wild card matchup there is for this weekend and give you your thoughts on the rest of the playoffs. I'm your host, Matthew Reardon, and this is Total Sports Talk Beyond the Lights. Make no mistake, although they may be one of the most hated teams in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs are the number one seed in the AFC, and they are the best team in the NFL. Like I said, they are probably the most hated team in the NFL, but it does remind you of a so-called team, the New England Patriots, as they were once on the top and they were dominant. And the thing about the Patriots and the Chiefs that I see a lot of parallels in their games is uh, they may not have had some of the best players. They may not have drafted, each year uh, a who's who of college football, but they didn't need to because they had some of the best draft developments that there are. And here we now see Tom Brady, who ended up being the greatest quarterback of all time. And then now we have Patrick Mahomes on the Kansas City Chiefs. There are a lot of similarities between the two teams, and the Chiefs are now chasing the first ever three-peat in the NFL in the Super Bowl era. And then on the other side of things, the Detroit Lions officially took the number one seed in the NFC as they beat the Minnesota Vikings in the final regular season game of the year to take over the NFC. With me today are both my co-hosts. We've got Ed Smith.
Welcome, y'all.
And we've got Thaddeus Lloyd.
Hello.
Well, guys, the wild card round is now in full effect. We've got a lot of games here to cover. And as I mentioned, we've got the Chiefs as the number one seed in the AFC and the Lions as the number one seed in the NFC. They will have a first round bye, so they will let the other teams duke it out to advance in the playoffs. Before we preview the games here, though, I do want to go over the wild card power rankings according to NFL.com. So that is going to exclude the Chiefs and the Lions since they do have the first round bye. So this is NFL.com's power rankings. I want to see if any of these kind of raise your eyebrows whatsoever. But coming in at number one in the wild card round, we've got the Buffalo Bills, which are the AFC East division winner, followed by the Philadelphia Eagles, which are the NFC East division winners. All right, so we got them at 1 and 2, followed by the Baltimore Ravens at the 3 seed with the AFC North division winner, and the Minnesota Vikings at the number 4 ranking in the rankings. We got the Washington Commanders at 5 and Green Bay Packers at 6, followed by the Los Angeles Chargers at 7, Tampa Bay Bucks at 8, which the Bucks did win the NFC South, Denver Broncos at 9, the LA Rams at 10, as they are the NFC West division winners, Pittsburgh Steelers at 11, and the Houston Texans at 12, which rounds out the top 12 as they were the AFC South division winners. Ed, what are your thoughts on this list initially?
There's a little bit of switching around that I would be doing, but they're pretty close to being right, in my opinion. Right now, I would still put Minnesota over Baltimore. Baltimore, there's just something with them that I don't trust that I trust in Minnesota right now. So I would have Minnesota above Baltimore in these rankings. I would pull the Washington Commanders down a couple of pegs Green Bay, I think, is a better team than Washington. Uh, maybe Chargers and Commanders be flip flopped somewhere in there. Tampa Bay, I think, is getting a little bit of a shaft in this because they are a top 10 offense. They are a top 10 defense. They are the South Division winner. The problem with Tampa, though, has been their consistency, is they are perfectly inconsistent, and that is the problem. Denver Broncos, they are on the surge, so I'm good with that. The Rams, they are the team nobody's talking about. Steelers and Texans, they could flip flop, but pretty close. I would have this pretty close, but maybe a couple of shifts here and there. Thaddeus, what are you thinking?
Yeah, initially looking at this list, it seemed pretty good. Like you said, a couple things could be flip flopped around. Um, but I would probably agree with like 90% of this list. They seem fairly placed. So yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these are going to change because of, I mean, the matchups that are going to be at hand. Half of them are going to win, half of them are going to lose. So I know we'll see a completely different list going into next week. But yeah, it's some of them could be changed, but for the most part, I think that they've got a pretty good rhythm on how they have the rankings here, give or take maybe one or two position changes there. But I support that, especially towards the end of the year. We did see some teams start falling off, such as the Steelers, the Texans. There's a reason why they're down towards the bottom. So, but before we preview these games here coming up, Thaddeus, we had a competition going on between the three of us with our picks, and the regular season is now over. What is our final numbers looking like in the year?
So these are kind of rough estimates. I guess I missed a week or two, but these are pretty accurate. Um, so for unqualified, we had David. David came on for 1 week, and unfortunately he couldn't make it to the rest of the weeks. But he went 3-2 that 1 week, so he didn't qualify. Um, but as far as the placement goes, third place we have Matt, who went 47-39. It was looking a little looking a little rocky there at the middle of the season, but he picked it up toward the end of the season. And then second place is me at 57-32. I hit a lot of my picks. There was a couple weeks, probably 2/5 of the way through the season, and I had a bit of a bumpy road. Um, but other than that, I was pretty good. Went 3-2, 4-1 most weeks. And then first place is Ed with 58-34, so one more win than me, beat me by one. Um, and he just had like one more 4-1 week than I did when we picked 5 games a week typically. So that's how it shook out for this season.
Yeah, congrats, Ed. I mean, picking up the victory for the regular season. Here's a trophy for you. I'll go ahead and ship it your way. But no, I'm impressed. Ed was very consistent, and I mean there were several weeks where he was going undefeated. So you sometimes you just got to go with your gut. Ed did just that and picked the correct winners when it mattered. So congrats, Ed, on that. Now we're going to start a new competition, clean slate for the playoffs here, where we all start 0-0. And well, let's start here by picking our next winners. Let's start with the first game here. And that is the Los Angeles Chargers going into Houston to take on the Texans. If you followed football, the Texans took over by surprise in the NFL last year as they were led by rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud. Uh, they did so many right things last year, and they've done so many right things this year too. But they set the bar a little bit higher last year with expectations because of the turnaround they had, and this year being 10-7 feels as if they didn't fulfill those expectations that were set by them for this year. But nonetheless, they are in the playoffs because they are the division winner. And CJ Stroud is still a great quarterback, and they have dealt with some injuries. First year wide receiver Stephon Diggs on the team got injured, so that that was a blow towards them. And I know they had another injury at the wide receiver position as well.
Tank
Was that
Dell was
Tank
out for a
Dell?
while.
Yeah, so they've dealt with their injuries there, and so the Los Angeles Chargers. It seems like keeping Joey Bosa on the field has always been a tough task throughout his career, and J.K. Dobbins as well. The many injuries he's had as well in his career, but this one of the biggest storylines going into this game for me is Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is just a known winner. He has won at both levels. I know he did not win the Super Bowl for the Niners when they were there, but he took the Niners there. Went to Michigan, took them to the national championship last year, won it, came to the NFL, and in his first year back in the NFL, brings his Los Angeles Chargers to the playoffs. I mean, the guy just knows how to win, Ed. I mean, were you even shocked by this at all?
I think we all expected the Chargers to make a playoff appearance, and more so because it's Jim Harbaugh and a proven quarterback. So that some would call Justin Herbert not as proven as we think that he is, but he is a proven talent at the quarterback position. I really think it comes back to Jim Harbaugh coaches and expects his team to be on the same page with an old school mentality of football. Run the ball, bleed the clock, make plays where you need to, take the points when you can, and let everything fall where they may after that. That is the Jim Harbaugh recipe for success. And part of it, not just on the field, but I think he actually changes the dynamic of how these teams prepare versus where you see a lot of teams, they'll rely so much on classroom and schematics. He wants to get his team physically prepared, and then he will impart what those schematics are supposed to look like. That is part of the difference that I see with the Jim Harbaugh led team versus other coaches in the league.
Yeah. Jim Harbaugh, he has that demeanor to him, and like you said, it's like an old school mentality coach, and it works for him at every program he's at. So, Thaddeus, for Houston, what do you think has kind of changed a little bit for them, and why are they being looked at as just, if you look at the rankings, the last ranked team?
Well, coming out of the regular season, they haven't had a very strong impression upon people. You obviously had last season, CJ Stroud's rookie season. It was really good, over exceeded expectations. Won a playoff game, but this time, it's not a terrible sophomore slump, but it's enough of one to call it a sophomore slump. And the offensive line just has not been as good as it was last year, and he's just getting sacked, and then they bring in these free agents, but Stephon Diggs is out for the rest of the year, so you don't have him, and the defense under D'Amico Ryans has been up and down. Like sometimes it's been amazing, and sometimes it's given up, over 30 points. So it's been very inconsistent. It's been a very inconsistent team overall. So I don't. That's why I especially wouldn't have a lot of confidence with them going into the playoffs. And it's a really bad matchup for them. Especially, this is one of the worst matchups they could have asked for. Actually, the Chargers just have a really good defense going for them right now, and just that Texans offense, I don't think will be able to capitalize on any mistakes that the Chargers offense makes.
Yeah.
And if I could add on to that, you're also talking about a Texans team that won the division where all three other teams are in the top 10 draft order of the NFL. So it's almost like they became division winners by proxy. So there's that. And then coming into this season, they played a first place schedule when last year they played a last place schedule. So that makes a difference in who you're playing and the level of competition that you're having to go up against. So there was bound to be a little bit of a step back, but I don't think it was enough of a step back to say that CJ Stroud is a one hit wonder in any way, shape, or form. But I have seen people try and throw that narrative out there around him, and I don't think that it's fair. I think more the fact that the Texans need to rely a little more on Mixon in the run game to to offset CJ Stroud and let CJ Stroud work a little more off of play action rather than him just trying to be Superman.
I think that applies for both teams. I think that they do need to focus on running the ball to help then create more opportunity for their quarterbacks later on into the game. So they could very well have similar game plans here. But yeah, CJ Stroud is definitely not really I don't want to say a sophomore slump or a one hit wonder. I think CJ Stroud is going to have a successful career in the NFL. And I would like to see Justin Herbert have that successful career in the NFL too. And he needed that guy that was going to help open that up for him. And that Jim Harbaugh couldn't have been more perfect for that situation for the Chargers and for Herbert. Go ahead and go with predictions here. Vegas right now has the Chargers as a 2.5 point favorite. I'm going to have to agree with them. I think the Chargers do win this game, just like Thaddeus said. This is going to be a tough matchup for Houston. I don't think they really wanted this matchup. Uh, Chargers, to me, and I could get some flack for this, uh, they could be a dark horse here in the AFC, in my opinion, if they could get Justin Herbert and use those tools accordingly. If there's one guy who's going to be able to do that, that's Jim. That's Jim Harbaugh. So I'm going to have the Chargers win in this game. I'm going to pick them to win probably 24-12. It's going to be a weird scoring game. So give me the Chargers 24-12 here. Thaddeus?
Yeah. Like I said before, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Chargers here for this one. I heard there was a little bit of a interesting analysis. I heard, and it's just the the Texans struggle especially against the blitz. They are, I believe, they were ranked 27th in the league versus the blitz. The Chargers are the most efficient blitzing team in the entire league. They were one of the top defenses in the entire league this year, and it's just it's pretty bad for the Texans. So that would be probably the biggest thing to look for when you're looking at this matchup. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. The Texans could show up. Like they randomly showed up a couple times this year. So it might happen. But even if that does, even if the Texans, try to show out, it's still not going to be enough to take down the Chargers. So I'm going to go Chargers 24-17.
So the Chargers, I mean, forgive me, the Texans, they did show up sometimes, but they also then went and lost to the Jets. So it's a real Jekyll and Hyde situation. If we're talking about this game staying close, it's going to come down to the kickers, either Fairbairn for the Texans or Cameron Dicker, the kicker for the Chargers. And I'm I'm always going to side with my man from Texas, Cameron Dicker. So I am going to take the Chargers, even though Houston is going to really show up in this game more so than what we anticipate, than what y'all had allowed showed in the score. I think this is going to be who gets to 21st. So it's I've got the Chargers 20-17. It's going to be a push on the money line.
Yeah, and one last point I want to add is uh, these Georgia rookies right now, and you know where I'm going with this. Lad McConkey, is becoming a very serious weapon for Justin Herbert. He led the Chargers in receiving this year as a rookie, and the last part of this year, he has been his go to, and no one's been able to stop him. It's very similar to when Hunter Renfro was very hard to stop for the Raiders. So I see similarities there, but Lad McConkey is a legit receiver in the NFL, and I love seeing it. These both Georgia rookies with him and Brock Bowers, they have really kind of taken the NFL by storm, and I do like seeing it. So keep an eye out for that name going into this game because they've built quite a relationship, Herbert and him. Next game we have to preview here is the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is actually a rematch of, was it week 2, Ed? This was the Brazil game? Week 1,
Week
okay.
one,
Week
Friday
1.
night.
Yeah, Brazil game. That's what, okay. Yeah, that's why I was getting. It was the second game of the year because the Chiefs played the night before. So, and it was a very interesting game. Unfortunately, Jordan Love did get hurt at the end of the game, which could have changed the outcome for the Green Bay Packers. The Eagles are one of the hottest teams in the NFL with the streak that they had to end the year. They just really couldn't be stopped. Uh, Green Bay, on the other hand, they have really fought to really earn this spot, and that NFC North is so tough. You've got 3 teams representing the NFC North in the playoffs right now, and I know Green Bay would have loved to win the division, but it was very tough to kind of take that from Minnesota and Detroit. So, but Green Bay is here in the playoffs, and they want redemption from that week 1, and no better way than to be able to do that than to go into Philadelphia and take this game from them. Ed, with Green Bay being your team and all, what are maybe some headlines or storylines you expect to see in this game against the Eagles?
Well, I think it's the main headline is going to be what does the wide receiver room do in this game? Because yes, I have talked about how each one of those wide receivers can plug and play at each other's positions, but at the end of the Bears game, we found out that Christian Watson, he is out with an ACL tear and possibly more in his right knee, and I think it's his right knee. Might be his left. I forget. Uh, but on the so that is a deep threat because Christian Watson has been a burner when he's on the field. The problem is he can't stay on the field. But when he's on the field, he is very dynamic in blowing the top off of defenses, which allows a lot of these close to the line of scrimmage, these misdirection wide receiver screens, these jet sweeps, these end arounds, those things that the wide receiver room is being tasked to do, they work a little bit better when the safeties are a little further down the field because they have to make sure and not overcommit because Christian Watson was going to go beyond them. So my question for this game is: will the Green Bay wide receiver core be as productive in this game as what they've been through most of the season? And I'm talking Jaden Reed needs to be more part of the offense than what I've seen here lately. Romeo Dobbs, he's been a beast over the last month. Tucker Kraft, he needs to continue to rise from his position. And Luke Musgrave, who just got back from injury, I think he needs to assert himself into this game plan and allow for a much bigger protection package for Jordan Love against the Eagles defense, but also give him more outlets to get down the field, even if it has to be, dink and dunk down the field, the short option routes to the tight ends. Do something to uh, to take the pressure off of Philadelphia's blitz coming at Jordan Love. Give him some outlets, give him some ways to get out of those blitz looks and take advantage of them. That's my big storyline for the Packers in this game. The defense, the flip side, the defense, they've they've had injury issues. We're still not seeing Jair Alexander. We're not going to. Quay Walker has been somewhat questionable uh, on defense as well. Evan Williams, he's questionable. There's just been pieces that don't quite fit together, but the defense has been playing really well going into the end of the season. It's just, can they kick it up a notch based upon the injuries that they've seen so far getting into the playoffs?
Yeah, injuries are always a key point at this stage of the season. It's just that's just how it is. NFL is a very physical sport, so you are going to have to deal with injuries. But in the end, it's going to be who wants it most, who needs it most. And these two teams, they are going to be clashing heads. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I think that there's going to be a lot of points scored here. Um, and we've seen the storyline of Saquon Barkley, the phenomenal year he's had, his first year in Philadelphia. And you do have to tip the cap to him because he has been the best running back in the NFL. Him and Derrick Henry for new homes.
And Josh
And
Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. There's a lot of running backs in a new home this year, and they have all seized the opportunity there. So good for Saquon. Get out of New York. You're in Philly now. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Thaddeus, we've seen the Eagles, besides Saquon Barkley, they've kind of been, having their issues on offense, especially with the passing game. And it seems like they worked through some things, and especially against the Steelers, they were able to kind of reinvent that passing game. Do we see that happening in the playoffs, especially against Green Bay here?
I believe so. Yeah. And it's because they have AJ Brown. AJ Brown is that dude, and he can win one on one basically anytime, anywhere. So he's just a super dominant receiver. And while Jalen Hurts isn't a great pocket quarterback, he can literally just throw it up and AJ Brown will catch it. And of course, they got Devontae Smith. I think he's questionable, but for this game, but the Eagles have a good receiver core. This is one of the best rosters in the entire NFL. It's just extremely well built up, and they have good offensive and defensive coordinators. So I will expect Green Bay to put up a fight, but I think coaching evens it out as far as coordinators go, and then just the talent of the Eagles is just too much. It's just too much for the Packers to handle.
All right, so it sounds like you're going Eagles here. You got a score prediction?
Yeah, I'm going Eagles here. This might be a bit more of a stretch than what people are thinking, but I'm gonna be I'm gonna be taking the Eagles 27-13.
Yeah, I do think there's going to be more points than that, and I do think Green Bay is going to put up a bigger fight than that. I know that it was all the way in week one, and it was all the way in Brazil, but they were still able to put up a fight then. And the thing here is that the weather is not going to be much of a difference for them. They're used to the cold. In fact, it would probably be colder in Wisconsin than it is in Philadelphia, so that's not going to really affect Green Bay at all. I do think that the Eagles do win this game, even though I will be pulling for your Packers, Ed, especially as a Steelers fan. I can't pull for the Eagles, but my gut, though, is telling me the Eagles do win this game. I'm going to go 32-28. It's going to be one of those games where I do think Green Bay does get the ball last, but they can't get that field goal because it is going to be a 4-point game. So they do have to go for broke for that touchdown. So unfortunately, I do think they fall short here. So give me Eagles here, 32-28. Ed.
This is a game in which I think Green Bay realizes that they they can go toe to toe with the best of the best in the NFC. They've just not been able to get over that hump. That of the games that they've lost this season, the only one that was not seeded higher than them in these playoffs was against the Bears on kind of a fluky end of the game type deal. And I think it continues. As much as I hate to say it, I think it continues. I think Philadelphia does win this game. I would I would take Green Bay with the points. This is going to get tight at the end. And I would probably say a 27-25 is where I'm thinking on this.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be close, and it's going to be a battle of gladiators in this game. There's going to be two tough teams here, and one team's going to have to come out. So it just sounds like the three of us do have the Eagles winning this game. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to watch it. And for your sake, Ed, I hope we're wrong. I'll be pulling for your Packers there. Next game, another NFC North team here. We got the Minnesota Vikings against the Los Angeles Rams. Vikings are going to be the best fifth seed you're going to see in some time. They just fell short of winning that NFC North and number one seed crown. I expected that game to be a little bit better than it was, but nonetheless, the Vikings are still at a phenomenal fifth seed as they go into possibly LA. Unfortunately, there is some wildfires taking place in LA. My thoughts and prayers go out to the residents, the folks down there. I know those are scary times, scary things to see. As of now, it's scheduled to be in LA. That could change and go to Arizona as an alternate site. But for now, it's still going to be a road game for the Vikings going down there. And the Rams, like Ed said earlier, this is a team that no one's talking about. And it's been like that all year, honestly. I mean, I think the most that I've even seen Matthew Stafford is on a Sleep Number commercial. You're just not really seeing much of him or hearing much of him. And that's kind of scary. It's kind of crazy. Stafford is a very proven quarterback in the NFL and a winner. He has won a Super Bowl with the Rams down in LA. So the Rams are no slouch. Sean McVay's there, and I know people have their opinions of him, but the Rams won their division very, very quietly. The Vikings, on the other hand, they have a phenomenal roster and a phenomenal coaching staff too, with Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores on the defensive side too. Top to bottom, the Vikings are stacked. And when you have a guy named Justin Jefferson catching balls for you, you have that confidence that you can win every single game out there. And I would too if I had someone like Aaron Jones in the backfield and Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison at the wide receiver position. But the Rams, Ed, they've got two receivers too that, when healthy, can go toe to toe with almost anyone too, and that is Cooper Kupp and oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank
Puka
on?
Nakua.
And Puka Nakua.
I would say there's three.
Yeah,
I would say Jordan Whittington is going to be another guy that fits that same mold of wide receiver. In fact, if Vlad McConkey were on the Rams, it would just be another wide receiver. But the fact that he's on the Chargers is a totally different thing.
yeah. Yeah, it's like, how do they keep doing this? They keep finding these guys. I mean, Cooper Kupp, Thaddeus knows Eastern Washington. I mean, he came out of nowhere, and here he is. He was before Jamar Chase. He was the last Triple Crown winner, and then in the NFL at the wide receiver position. So, in Puka Nakua, he is showing that he's pretty much following in those footsteps of Cooper Kupp and is a legit receiver. So I don't know how the Rams are doing it, Thaddeus, but they're finding these guys.
Yeah, Les Snead has been doing a fantastic job as the GM for the Rams. Despite, I think it was just this last year, Jared Verse was their first overall draft pick, I believe, since Jared Goff. Or at least it's been like 6 or 7 years since they had a first round draft pick because they went all in on that Super Bowl. They won that Super Bowl. It worked out for them. So there you go. But they finally had a first round draft pick. But in order to have kept up the level of success that they had, you got to have a good coach. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches. and you also had to have good drafts. And the Rams consistently have had at least good drafts every year. So they've always constantly resupplied their need for good for good talent. Um, the defense at the beginning of the year was a little iffy. You couldn't really name anyone on that defense, but then they've drafted, like you said, how they've been able to do it. Well, they've drafted defensive line really well. All of them are higher draft picks, with Jared Verse being the first overall, one of the first round draft picks. But the rest of that line is all first or second year players, and they're already really good. Jared Verse is almost near an all pro level already as a rookie. They were worried about Aaron Donald's retirement. Um, I remember there was middle of the season and there was rumors that he was going to come back. Um, that didn't happen, but looks like they do have their replacement for him, which is good for them. And it's just Lesney has just done a fantastic job with this front office. So they've been able to refill their gaps pretty consistently, and have been able to maintain their high level now for a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely, they have, and a team is only better than their GM, and that's why the Cowboys suck. But it's it's he really has done a phenomenal job for this organization, and they are, like I said, a team that just people aren't talking about. And what is interesting to me, Ed, is just how close Vegas has this game right now. Currently, they've got Minnesota as a what is it, 2.5 point favorite.
One.
So it's close. 1 point. Sorry, 1 point. So it is very close. And you know what? I see why. Every year there is a team or two that has maybe no business winning, especially against a team that's been so dominant this year. And I know that sounds kind of disrespectful by me saying this, but I, Minnesota should win this game. Minnesota is not going to win this game. I'm picking the Rams to actually pull off this upset here and win this game against Minnesota. I love the year that Minnesota has had. Uh, Kind of a Cinderella type of story, especially because their number one draft pick got hurt. They got Sam Darnold, where I know I'm not the only one. Pretty much most of the NFL didn't have high expectations on, and here they are, 14-3, and they took the NFL by surprise, by storm. But the Rams, I just feel like the Rams are going to play spoiler here. I think the Rams are going to have fun with Puka Nakua, Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams is a great running back too. And so I feel like the Rams are going to pull off this upset here. Give me the Rams winning this game 27-20 here, Ed.
So it's difficult for me to not look at this and think about the quarterbacks and who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You've got you've got Matthew Stafford versus Sam Darnold. I'm going to take Matthew Stafford like 11 out of 10 times in that scenario. Yes, Kevin O'Connell, he's a phenomenal game planner, phenomenal coach, but he hasn't been there as a head coach. Sean McVay has, and he's been there with that guy. And the fact that you are getting uh, both Cup and Nakua available with Kyron Williams, uh, do getting some yardage to take some of the pressure off of the passing game. I think it's a recipe for the upset where the Rams win. I'm with you, Matthew. There's something about this game that stinks.
Yeah.
And it stinks like the Vikings are a great story for the regular season, but they are not built for the playoffs. And I think the Rams have learned what it takes to build for the playoffs. And that's why I'm going to take them. And I'm going to take them probably, let's go 31 28.
Yeah. Yes, Ed had the same kind of thought that I did, but yeah, a great point, Ed. That they are built more, I think, for the playoffs, and they've done that, for several years now, including winning a Super Bowl. Thaddeus.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's two key matchups I want to look at for this game. One is going to be the Rams' offense versus the Vikings' defense. The Rams' offense, ever since scoring, the 44 points against the Bills, have haven't scored 20 points since, and they've really struggled. Like Cooper Cup hasn't really shown up a lot. It's just and Puka Nakua has caught a couple balls, but this offense just the past month has just basically been hand the ball off to Kyron Williams. He's been averaging, I think, like 25 carries a game or something crazy like that. So this offense has been really stunted the last month, and oh, excuse me, and the Vikings defense, while actually technically played a good game against the Lions. It was just that the Vikings offense just couldn't keep up with it. So this Vikings defense is still good under Brian Flores, and and then the other one is how this Vikings offense is, Sam Darnold versus this Rams defense, because we saw last Sunday night, Sam Darnold, we almost said he was seeing ghosts again.
Yeah.
So so it depends which Sam Darnold is going to show up. Is he going to be the old Sam Darnold that was, with the Jets Sam Darnold that was seeing ghosts, really inaccurate, throwing balls to only 7'5" receivers could have caught. He doesn't have any of those this game. Or is it going to be the Sam Darnold we saw most of this season, outside of 2 or 3 games, which was really accurate, cannon of an arm, and being able to throw it, to this great trio of receivers and a great tight end. So we really have two sides here, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see. This might be a really low scoring game, actually, and I actually really do want to take the Rams here because they came oh so close to beating the Lions in the playoffs last year. But in the end, I do think the Vikings are going to be able to pull this out. I just this I know the Rams offense can go off at any moment, but they just haven't looked the same the past month. And with how good the Vikings defense is, I got to take the Vikings here, and I think Sam Darnold will just be able to make one more play than Matthew Stafford. So I'm gonna take the Vikings in this one, 20-13.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Ed. I know me and Ed picked the Rams here, but I would pick Stafford over Sam Darnold. But the Vikings do have a really good defense, so that could be what helps them win the game. But we'll see. I still am going with the Rams here. We got 3 more games here to go over. We'll go over these ones kind of quick. First one, we've got Pittsburgh Steelers at Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, when you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, on their A game, they are very tough to stop. They're tough to handle. Um, Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in the league. He really is. And Lamar Jackson is one of, if not the very best quarterback in the league right now, too. He could be going on to his back-to-back MVP seasons here. He has struggled a little bit in the playoffs, and he has struggled also in his career against the Steelers. I talked about there being teams that have no business winning, and there's always that 1 or 2 teams that do it. And this is really shocking for me because I usually don't pick my Steelers. I don't. But I'm going to pick them this game. They have lost too many games in a row right now, and they need to get their crap together. And what better way to do it in the first round of the playoffs against your division rival to spoil their season? Steelers have no business winning this game, but something's telling me they're going to. It's going to be such a defensive game here. I'm going to go. Let's go 21-17 Pittsburgh here. Ed.
So, one of the reasons why I think Lamar Jackson has struggled in the playoffs is for some reason, John Harbaugh tends to get him to the playoffs and then just drops the team on his shoulder and says, "Go get a win for us, big guy."
Yeah.
That's what you do. I mean, completely forgetting about the fact that there are running backs on the roster,
Yeah.
forgetting that there are tight ends on the roster, there are wide receivers to throw to downfield, which right now Baltimore is a little lacking in the wide receiver room. But the fact that you have Derrick Henry, he is going to set the tone, not Lamar Jackson, on this playoff run. And that being said, Baltimore will win this game, and I think they win it handily. Not only do they have the motivation of getting past that first round of the playoffs, but they have the motivation of playing against an in division foe, and that's going to be more than enough to have them just walk in and take control of this game. I think this is going to be a wider spread, uh, somewhere in the neighborhood of 27-10, uh, for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep. I mean, I can see why you would go there, and Steelers really don't have any business even being in the playoffs. I'll be the first to tell you that. I know the Bengals are our rivals, but I feel like they're more deserving at this point than the Steelers are. But the Steelers made it, Bengals didn't. So you got to put up a fight here in the playoffs. We struggle even getting past the first round. It's been a while, but hopefully that streak breaks this year. Thaddeus.
Yeah, this is an intriguing matchup. I really like this one. It's a tale. You got two tales here, just like the previous game. You have Lamar Jackson struggling in the playoffs. He has a 2-4 record, which is the worst among players with at least 5 starts in the playoffs, like a winning percentage. So for some reason he just maybe it is John Harbaugh just dropping the team on his shoulders. Who knows? But now they have Derrick Henry. At the same time, the Steelers, mostly have had Lamar Jackson's number. However, they were not able to win the last game, which is very interesting. The Ravens pulled out in the end on that one. So I I gotta say I'm gonna go with the Ravens in this one, but in a really close matchup because I believe Zay Flowers is going to be out for this game, Lamar's number one passing option. And especially if he's not good to go, this game is going to be really low scoring because Lamar, as amazing as he was, heavily relied on Zay Flowers this season. And they just might run the heck out of the ball. And for the Steelers, I I think the defense can contain them this time. Like they weren't able to last game, but the first game they definitely were. So I don't expect the Ravens to put up a lot of points. However, I also don't expect the Steelers to put up a lot of points either, because the Russell Wilson after the first month and a half of starting, the offense started to go down again like it normally did, like it normally does, and Mike Tomlin. Even though he's had every winning season every year, it's just the last 15 years it's been a one and done in the playoffs. So I expect that to continue. Give me the Ravens 14-9 in a really low scoring game.
Yeah, and as of late, Rashard Bateman's actually been a big. He stepped up a lot and has been one of the primary targets for Lamar. So that has changed a little bit. But yeah, not having Zay Flowers could be tough
It's
for.
also Mark Andrews' time.
Yeah, we haven't heard his name at all this year, which is scary. And he's always dominated the Steelers. So I wouldn't doubt he has a big game. On to the next game really quick. Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. This is actually going to be one of my favorite matchups this weekend. There's a lot of great matchups, but what Denver has done this year with rookie quarterback Bo Nix, Sean Payton he's having fun again. He's found his quarterback. He's found his pupil, and he's building him from the ground up. He's building this Broncos team pretty much from the ground up, and he's had success this year. And the defense as well. The defense is one of the best in the NFL. Phenomenal defense. This could be a game that Buffalo should not be looking past at all. Denver is going to put up a tough fight. Uh, I do think Josh Allen, with the experience, is going to be the key in this game, and I think that'll be the reason why Buffalo does win this game. But I think Denver puts up one heck of a fight. Give me this. I'll make it quick. Give me Buffalo 30-27. I think that there's going to be some points put up in this game. So give me Buffalo 30-27. Thaddeus.
Yeah, I also think this is actually going to be higher scoring than what people think. Bo Nix is actually very interesting. He struggled the first month of the season, and then him and Sean Payton started clicking together, and he looked really good. He actually does remind me a little bit of Josh Allen in the way he just leading the team in rushing yards and has that cannon of an arm. It's really fun to see. Um, However, you are going up against Josh Allen. Now, normally these defenses would be pretty good. The Broncos defense is an awesome defense. However, I just don't think they're going to be able to stop Josh Allen. But I also don't think the Bills defense will be able to stop Bo Nix either. So I think this will be a high scoring game as well. But give me the Bills 35-27.
Yeah, sometimes defenses can be optional in the playoffs. Doesn't matter how great you were in the regular season. Come playoffs, it can be optional. Ed?
Well, Denver is a problem, and they will continue to be a problem. But I think they're a year too early
Mm-hmm.
for this matchup. So I think the last time a rookie quarterback made it past the first round of the playoffs was Mark Sanchez, if I remember correctly. So that's been a minute, and I don't think that uh, Denver is quite ready for prime time. But looking at next year, my goodness, this team is going to be a problem for Buffalo. Just not this weekend. So I am going to have Buffalo. I think they will handle this. It's not going to be very tense, but I think the score, there might be some garbage time scores that make this look a little bit better than what it is. And so I'm going to have Buffalo 38 to 27.
Really quick, CJ Stroud actually won in the first round last year. So, but I knew what you meant.
Oh,
It's been a bit for rookie quarterbacks.
Brock Purdy did as well.
I wasn't sure if he was a rookie or not. So
Yeah, he was a rookie.
okay, yeah, which is still phenomenal, but it's tough in the NFL as a rookie quarterback, really getting far in the playoffs. It's almost unheard of. So,
I mean,
um,
CJ Stroud was going against Joe
Joe
Flacco.
Flacco, I know, in the Browns, but the Browns had the best defense in the NFL last year. But like I said, playoffs things change.
Yeah, they it was it's funny because they just one note on that. It was funny because the Browns had the best defense in the NFL, but then gave up what 35 points to CJ Stroud. And remember that one of the most fun games from last year was the Colts Browns, that 38-35 game
Yeah,
with Gardner Minshew as the Colts quarterback.
I know. Yeah, because Joe Flacco was the quarter. Oh no, Joe Flacco ended up going to the Colts this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he ended
that
up
was
going to the
Yeah.
Colts last year.
Yeah,
This
that
year.
was a crazy game though. Yeah, so but you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. Last game to preview here, really quick. We got the Washington Commanders at the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'll give a quick prediction on why I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay here. I know Tampa Bay can be inconsistent at times, but they do have a top tier offense, top tier defense. But the reason why I'm also picking Tampa Bay is because they have dominated the NFC East in the first round of the playoffs the last several years, starting with the Dallas Cowboys with that Dak Prescott slide in the middle of the field, and then the Eagles last year in the first round. And now we're going Washington in the first round this year. So give me Tampa Bay in this game. Baker Mayfield on the offense is going to be a pretty fun offensive matchup to see here with Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, they're all going to have fun. Kate Otten. Let's go Tampa Bay in this game. 35 to Washington's 24. Thaddeus.
Yeah, I've showered my praises with the Bucks this season. I also like them in this matchup as well. It's going to be intriguing. The Washington offense versus the Buccaneers defense. Or sorry, the Buccaneers offense. Both these offenses are really just fun to watch in general. But I'm gonna have to take the Bucks in this one. They just have a better defense than Washington does at this moment. Um, and Baker Mayfield is such a competitor. Um, and Jaden Daniels is too. But it just in the end, I just think the Bucks defense will be able to stop this Washington team. Bucks defense has been, especially with Vita Vea in the middle, always been one of those top 10 rush defenses. And Washington is predicated off the run. That's how they run the RPOs and stuff like that. So I do think they'll be able to slow them down. And yeah, the Bucks offense is just too potent. It will be a closer game. I'm going to go Bucks 28 to 21 in this one.
All right, Ed.
So, do either one of y'all remember where Washington had their last playoff victory?
Was Santana Moss on the team at the time?
It was at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a repeat performance. This will be the first Washington playoff victory in, I believe, 8 years. Uh, so I think with Jaden Daniels, uh, he's got this team up for every week, not just up and down, up and down, up and down. I like the consistent culture building that Dan Quinn has done in Washington. Not to say that Todd Bowles hasn't done that in Tampa, but this is a dynamic and explosive offense that Washington is walking in to Florida with. And I think with Brian Robinson Jr., I think Zach Ertz makes a couple of really big plays just out of nowhere. And he turns back the clock a little bit. There's something about this Washington team that is that team that Matthew, you were saying before, is the team that has no business winning in the first round or two of the playoffs. And I think this is the team that's it. The Washington Commanders, I think, do go into Tampa and get the victory.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels is no slouch. He's got that dog in him, that it factor, going from Heisman Trophy winner last year to most likely Rookie of the Year this year. Uh, he's gotten Washington where they are, and Dan Quinn as well. And he's fun to watch. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. I love seeing the success this guy has, and he has consistently improved in his career from Arizona State to LSU to now Washington in the NFL. So he is a competitor indeed. So, and he always has his guys there ready for a fight. So Washington could win this game.
Also, with him being a rookie quarterback, he is going to have a difficult time. But there are 3 games in mind that I have in mind that really tie into what this Washington team is right now, and that is that win against the Bears on the Hail Mary. That is the back and forth game with Dallas in the last 2 minutes, and also the game against the Eagles in which they came back and won when they had lost that game if A.J. Brown had caught a simple pass over the middle. So being able to stay in the fight for a full 60 minutes, that's what I'm looking for out of Washington, and that's why I think they're going to win.
Yeah.
And then just one thing. I remember this was during the COVID years, but the last time these two met in the playoffs was 2020, and Tom Brady went against Taylor Heineke. Washington versus Tampa Bay. But that's when they were the football team.
Yeah, and they may
That
be
was a fun game.
they may be changing their name again. So, but yeah, the Tom Brady years in Tampa Bay, so crazy to think. But yeah, Jane Daniels, great quarterback, fun quarterback to watch, and so is Baker Mayfield. I really do enjoy watching Baker Mayfield here. So I'm sure if David was here, he would be picking his Bucks to win too. So David, we'll see what happens when it comes to this playoff game against Washington. That is all 6 games. That is about all we have today. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We urge you to continue to tune in, especially as we are going to have some changes here on this show. And if you can hit that like and subscribe button, we'd appreciate that. And also chat with us in the comments and give us your predictions for these playoff games. And if you want to give us an early prediction on a dark horse team now, feel free to do it, and your Super Bowl picks. It's never too early. It's never too early. But till next time, guys, we are headed for the locker room.